Let's fix this. When you're up here, hi, you are on YouTube. So if you're one of those people who are worried about where you submit things and whether or not it's online, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, do not do that poem because it's going to be online. Damn it. One of the things I like to do, welcome, first of all, to Poets and Pints number 111. That's right. Three ones put together. It's amazing. It's a long time. I'm now, believe it or not, I've now hosted the show longer than the previous host of the show. Yes. So it's kind of insane to think about. So the first thing I like to do at the top of the show is to see if anybody in the audience has a poem from someone you think we don't know. No? Come on, where's Charlie?
I can look. I don't have one off the top.
Let me look. I'll just look. I got something in my bucket right now. Talk amongst yourselves because I'm a professional. Okay. You know what? I'm just going to cold read out of this book. Because that's fun. I like cold reads. Here we go. Apparently, this is 100 best poems of all time, according to Leslie, who I don't know. This is called Waiting for the Barbarians by Constantine P. Cavafy, who was alive from 1863 to 1933. So this is probably not about stereos. The perfect example is an epitaph thing at the top of it, or is that what it's called? Epigraph. Thank you. This is a perfect example of how the Greek poet, he was a Greek poet, Cavafy, unique voice characterized by a blend of literary and vernacular language, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's just the editor. Here we go. What are we waiting for? Packed in the forum. The barbarians are due here today. Why isn't anything going on in the Senate? Why have senators given up legislating? Because the barbarians are coming today. What's the point of senators and their laws now? When the barbarians get here, they'll do the legislating. Why did our emperor set out so early to sit on his throne at the city's main gate in the state we're wearing the crown? Because the barbarians are coming today, and the emperor's waiting to receive their leader. He's even got a citation to give him, loaded with titles and imposing names. Why have our two consuls and praetors shown up today wearing their scarlet togas? Why have they put on their bracelets with so many amethyst rings sparkling with all those emeralds? Why are they carrying elegant canes so beautifully worked in silver and gold? Because the barbarians are coming today, and things like that dazzle barbarians. And why don't our distinguished orators push forward as usual to make their speeches say what they have to say? Because the barbarians are coming today, and they're bored by rhetoric and public speaking. Why this sudden bewilderment and this confusion? How serious everyone looks. Why are the streets and squares rapidly emptying and everyone going home so lost in thought? Because it's night and the barbarians haven't come, and some people just in from the border say there are no barbarians any longer. Now what's going to happen with us without them? The barbarians were a kind of solution. Okay. Let's jump right into it. We got a good show tonight. So first, before we bring up any of the features, I want to bring up the person who put together the features for tonight. So Luna Rey Hall, why don't you come up here and tell us what was going through your head when you put together this group of poets tonight?
Hey everyone, I'm going to make this really easy. I'm a big fan of all the poets, and what was going through my head was absolutely nothing, which is how I write poetry.
My favorite answer.
So, it's great. That's it. Big fan. Thank you all for coming. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. After that long diatribe, here we go. First up is Elisabeth Workman. Elizabeth is the author of Ultimate,
Ultra Mega Prairie.
there it is. Author of Ultra Mega Prairie Land from Blue Books, Endlessness and No Desolation from Ducey Press, and numerous chapbooks. She collaborates with visual artists, public practice artists, musicians, and other poets, dead and alive, and plants. She's current MN artist. That's hard to say. She's a current MN Artist Arts Writing Fellow and can be found in the disembodied realm at ElisabethWorkman.com. Everybody, please put your hands together for Elisabeth Workman.
Thank you, Tony.
Oh, a little low. So good.
How's this?
Perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna do a timer because I have no sense of time. Thank you, Luna, and thank you, Tony. I am going to read from, it's the 10th anniversary this year, my first book, Ultra Mega Prairie Land, so I thought I'd begin with that. This is a poem called Prong Tree Soahud Recon, or Powderhorn Country Song, the secret song of the Cyclops. Po pop wood, yearn now, po woo rot, power wood, he, here, pro horned, pro eon, pro ren od he, do air, per on rat, red rap ho, rude, papapotas, and power hood drone, pop, woosod, yearn now, reword, de wood, when wonder, odd ode, ear prune, dow pended, pepper up tree, pro hood, pro home, pro pre und pre, yo dorno, render who pow, on wend, rue, no, per op, per hode, wo, woo, pod, yearn how, so nord, op, wooer, so dope, ode, hope, pro rend, pro word, pro chord, u, roy, see, po, wood, air, orn, so chord tree, pong, pop, woo, rod, yearn, how, pro, poho, pro rondo, pro yo, yo, we. That was a villanelle. Commuter song. That was a springtime poem about rebirth, new car sales, Persephone's commute from hell, Minnesota courtesy, mutilated head. What mercy, something rustled, something spheric in the kegerator, homologous, something rustled from within the cryogenic depths of the ICE offices headquartered in Lake Wobegon's asshole. A nearly mystical invocation of local sense, a magic, timeless musical sphincter for a white, non-emotional wormhole in which Kafka meets Garrison Keillor and eats him. It was going to get ugly. It was already ugly. It was never ugly, and we have no recollection of anything ever being ugly. Thank you. And I think I'll just read the first poem in this collection. Keep thinking about Amiri Baraka's thing about this thing he said about you find the self and then you kill it. So, once upon a time I was. Meow, meow, every year till an unknown number of elders possessed by some copacetic chronic earn extra income to swim in perfect ecstatic harmony with a slow Saturday afternoon. This plot of perseverance sprays like pleasure boats across ineptomysticity. Obviously, being human, it is awkward. Once upon a time, moving indefinitely along an edge implied tiny wild kittens escaping PBS, subsistence hunting, fear of radioactivity, flickering glandular affluence. Ancient glaciers oozed light through the general living room of America, while an Amish person, in a dark moment, considered low-rise skinny jeans, and a dolphin escaped persecution to form a unique but purely hypothetical community full of frolic-like, empathetic after-sex plasma light. These early bodies exploded violently. In their wake, a vast overriding rule, which we read as warmth, and later a junkie's whisper-soft script, dealt with via white cats behind wavy glass. Snow on one side, the other chopped up. Once upon a time, I was born in the ground. I'm gonna read some really good work.
New shit.
You should. I know. It's kind of a listener beware. Because the ZZ plant loves its dream life. Because invitation, I want to spell enchantment and necessary difficulty. Because ownership is delusion, and so I am this setting, its gangly underfeeling and laughter inside bubbles with hats and finery filched from the control machine too long ago, therefore veer elsewhere. Because I think this is the switch. Because I want liberation from resentment and temporal upheaval of the disembodied otherwise. Because it's a family affair. Because the myth of the closed system eats its tail and recirculates. Because that Christ wound radiates like a vulva. Because unusual reds. Because the fool is in my mouth. Because the sensual surrounds. Because flaws are the escape hatch. Because I want to begin again, to think about unlived love. Because the unloved lives. Live your unlived life, little longing. Thank you. Oh, I don't know. This is one for my dad and like about my dad who is going through memory loss. Explanations make no new sense. The sound of birdsong in darkness, the green dream of the carcass. He would say later he was nothing but a carcass with 10 fingers and 2 rings. Now, however, we are listening to Steely Dan. You don't know who I am exactly, but I am friendly, somehow kin. Maybe from New Orleans, Peggy, you said, or somebody Mary Lou. You don't pick the song I imagine, or did I pick it? I make notes about the ice blue sky, and here in the dark morning, why choose favorites when everything is a reflection of you? You wouldn't know a diamond if you held it in your hand is my mirror too. How I used to avoid you. Why remember when you already have a body? Today you say music takes the back of your brain asking for a ride and says, let's try this. Hey, this is worthwhile. This is our pitch. This is our pace. I think this is also the time of your wanderings when you have been picked up by strangers and angels and cops who reel you in which I also hear as REAL, because you're listening to something else, not unreal, but a pitch we can't hear. Because gone searchin' was your handle, who knows what you did with it. The canoes are belly up in the lake and snow-capped and clanking. Because it is late and your endless summer didn't turn out as you planned, I can almost say I don't need it to be anything more than this, that there are birds singing and I don't know why. Thank you. And I'll end with two guzzles, since we're in a brewery, you're guzzling. Night shift. It's 5:30 chariot and the vessel is never not broken. Do you mean abandoned? I mean infinite unfolding. The water of life's jellyfish, outside in, inside out, like anything might move through you, dancer. The babyest seahorses, plastic particulates, nano cities in the butter light of nowhere else. In this cell, after breathing very hard, you might feel like an electric tree and conduct all becoming. Skidding across an expanse of ice, a phone, a plate, a blade, a parade of plosives like little bombs at the precipice of abyss. Do you mean womb? I mean Western Civ, here torn in it and live. Violins like ecstatic rain, violence a tremor, to be inside and born in the torrent of authorless volition anyway. Thank you. A gust, a feeling. Sometimes things get stuck was yesterday's line that didn't stick. This morning I find it here at the head of the pack, mucho gusto. This isn't a treatise on tabula rasa, obs, I'm a mom. For emphasis, she planted her palms on the table and the greedy flowers quaked. I know you, I once thought, but in thinking the risk of dwelling, in dwelling the risk of rent, in rent the risk of great emotional pain and feudal society, royals, noble pusses in boots. With alarming efficiency, the cats in chase clear my desk of last year's receipts. Karma Coffee, Highway Toll Administration, Holiday Station, The Future, Reverie, Mayday, Red Queen, etc., and Berlin as the Green Knight. A gust, a series of grays, early springs ugly and unsettled. What doesn't root flies away, a finch, a gust, a feeling, like the one that sustained me for so long. I give it a black canoe, float away on the fluid accumulation of days and their misty dissolution. Thank you, everyone.
One more time for Elisabeth. Now a round of applause for that jumper. That's a cool outfit. We're going to keep it rolling here. Our next poet, you want to go by Jen, not Jennifer, like it says on here. Okay, so Jen Manthey is an author of The Flight. Oh, speaking of books, before I move on to Jen, Elisabeth has books over there too. So buy local books if you can. Okay, now, Jen Manthey is the author of The Flight, also over there. Winner of the Trio Award and finalist for the Minnesota Book Award and Eric Hoffer Book Award. Her writing has appeared in journals such as Prairie Schooner, Poet Lower, Calyx Journal, Best New Poets, and Palette Poetry. She lives in Minneapolis. Please put your hands together for Jen Manthey. It's my job.
Okay. I'm going to start with a summer picnic poem because that is the season we're in.
Closer to the mic, please.
Okay. So in my book, I write a lot about race and adoption because I'm the adopted mother of a Black son. So in many of the poems that I wrote for this book, I found myself writing to examine about the ways that whiteness works in my life, the ways it's shaped me, and the way it often fails us, and even the ways that we fail others because of it. So this poem is called Minnesota Nice. At the picnic, everyone but my son is white, and the food is predictably bad. The woman who owns this house stands straight-shouldered and sleek as a bike. She points toward the plates. My son stands alone next to the folding chairs no one is using. I bring him a hot dog he doesn't want and a can of soda he does want. The house is large and well-positioned. The yard run through with weeds. Along the back fence, iris grow in bunches like teen girls, heads burst with new beauty. Conversation hangs humid in the air until one man says, "This social justice movement is getting exhausting. What more do they want?" A woman next to me has shoes and new shoes, and I admire them. Another woman's arms are as thin as I'd like mine to be. My son steps cautiously into a circle of children he's never met before. They hand him the smallest water gun. He runs towards the creek, his knees like two polished stones. You don't have to clap every time. The next one I will read is about my hometown, which is Kenosha, Wisconsin. And it has an epigraph from Sandra Beasley's poem, My Witnesses. It says, Virginia, my ghosts need gathering. The title of this poem is Kenosha, Our Ghosts. I see us hiding among choir robes after church, their weight and old scent, climbing rocks at the lake shore, even though our mothers told us to stay away. I see storms rolling off the lake, darkening skies and dropping the temperature 30 degrees. And there is our classroom of mostly white, gifted, and talented students at the mostly black school. Long after some of us moved away, that summer came. Our phones filled with fire and broken glass. Some of us lamented the gas station our friend's dad used to own, the Italian restaurant we ate at before prom. And wasn't this our own violence? Some of us saying the word riot more easily than we said unarmed, 7 shots to the back. We named properties lost, but never named him, Jacob Blake. I can still see us, double-dutching at recess, girls whose beaded braids clicked along with the ropes, teaching those of us who held back in fear what moment to enter the fast-flashing arcs. They gave us a little shove when we hesitated, shouted, just go. All right. So this afternoon, as I do like most days that are nice, I walked around the lake in my neighborhood, and I passed a bunch of moms like with their strollers loaded up and their kids following them on scooters and little bikes. One mom was like carrying a bike that her preschooler had abandoned while also trying to push a stroller, and I remember that. That used to be my summer. And my youngest son just turned 12 a couple weeks ago, so I don't really have to like carry all that shit anymore. And the freedom that I like felt in this unencumbered walk reminded me of this poem that I wrote. It's called Homecoming. And it's just kind of considering what we maybe give up as mothers or parents and maybe what we can return to. So this is called Homecoming. All afternoon, they got themselves ready, my daughter and her best friend. They brushed each other's hair and curled and sprayed. They blinked into their mascara side by side. At the lake, they posed stiffly with boys, but comfortably together, and I missed my friend from high school. How easily we draped our arms across one another. Would we do that now if we saw each other again? Years we gave to new cities, to children and husbands, and not to each other. In the photo, my daughter's hair blew in the wind across her face, but she didn't mind. She was so happy. How many years did I braid her hair tight? She'll leave for college next fall, and I will find parts of myself to return to. Okay, so next I'll read you a couple things that are new, because I feel like if you come to a reading, you should hear stuff that you can't just read at home in the book. So this is called Memory Care, and I wrote it after visiting my grandpa who lives in a memory care facility a couple months ago. Memory Care. He repeats the war, repeats the ship carrying 2,000 men that brought him there. The waves repeated, grew, crashed onto the deck. There were rows of cots stacked 6 high, repeating. The cold of waist-high water he waded through to reach the shore. He repeats the 38th parallel, the tanks he drove, the stalks of the rice, and the steel of his helmet. It was heavy, but saved his life. His fingers froze without gloves. His toes froze without boots. He knew the enemy soldiers, the ones he shot at repeatedly, also wanted to go home. He repeats the home, the missing it. He repeats the files he'd like to take a look at if only these nurses would let him go back to his house. His home, his home. He repeats her name, Norma. He never heard her say a curse word, not once. He saw her on the street back in Terre Haute, 1946, and stopped. He just had to whistle. He repeats whole summers, the travel, the research. He repeats 42 years of biology and basketball. The ball on the court can't ever stop repeating. Did you know he wrote a book? Did you know his father hung wallpaper for $1 a room? He repeats the paste, the pattern. The day is repeating itself. CNN is repeating the story about the active shooter, which is a story that has happened before. The novel is new again, the first chapter forgotten, reread. He repeats the story about the duck who knocked at his door with its beak. Have you heard the one about the family dog? It ate a whole ham. He returns to hunger, which is to say war. He returns to freezing. He was 18. He repeats his age. He repeats his youth. He repeats the cold. He thought he might never be warm again, but he was. And this other new one I wrote after saying goodnight to my youngest son. I kind of as a mom always felt like I should have a bedtime poem, and I never did, but now I do. This is called White Mom, Black Son. I sing his song at bedtime, each night changing the word sunshine to his name. Tonight he is afraid, though he won't say of what, only saying it's too dark. He wants the hallway light on. A man was shot, he knows this, saw the video on a friend's phone. He wants and doesn't want to talk about it. We talk about middle school instead, how it's coming next year, and he says he doesn't want to grow up. He wants to stay young, stuffed lions still surrounding him. You can't stop growing, I say, patting his back, rubbing his hand and forearm, the smooth knob of his wrist. Between us, a kind of loneliness for each other, and a door I close quietly each night. All right, and I'm going to end with 2 poems. The first is the title poem, The Fight. And then the next one is the best part of the fight, which is the makeup sex. So we'll get to that. All right. Oh, geez. Okay, The Fight. My son's principal calls on the day of his first fight, first grade. A boy pushed him out of line and my son pushed back. Pushing, then hitting. They are 6. A white boy's father might say, good for you, standing up for yourself. My husband says, there are injustices coming all the time. Sometimes you have to be the bigger man. My son cries in bed, I'm a bad boy, and I hate America. I hate what I can't stop it saying to my son. Outside our window, a dog passes on a leash and our dog goes wild with barking. I don't bother to stop her, her nose and teeth crashing at the glass. And this is called Makeup Sex. You were undressing me quickly. For the past week, this fight has been our part-time job. Before we made it to this bed, we sat for hours at the dining room table, flowers drooping between us and the trivets not holding anything warm. At the table, someone said, this might be over. At the table, someone said, I don't know if you want me to be honest. Outside, the sprinkler fought against the drought. The dog whined to come in. Finally, we stacked compromise like coins found lucky on the sidewalk. Our hands touched and we went upstairs. And here we are in our joy. The windows are open. The night looks like what a child does when she has only black construction paper left. She takes her white crayon and draws stars and stars and stars.
Keep it going for Jen, man. Okay, moving right along here. If you someday want to be a feature on this show, there is no rehearsal process, there is no audition. You simply sign up. How do you do that? There's cards on the table. On the back of the card, there's a little link to a survey. Fill out that survey, puts you in the queue, and eventually I send you an email saying, hey, you want to do the show? It's that simple. All right, moving on to our fellow Cracked Walnut board member. That's right, this show's put on by Cracked Walnut, by the way. We are the local chapter of the League of Minnesota Poets, and we love being here. Okay. Brittany Jaekel writes from the Twin Cities following stints in Chicago, Madison, and DC. Her work has previously appeared in Rhino, Agates, Right Hand Pointing, and other places. She serves as the nonfiction editor at the Great Lakes Review. Everybody, please put your hands together for Brittany Jaekel.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, and thank you, Tony, for saying my last name correctly.
I had to ask, if I'm being honest.
All right, first poem is called Ophelia's Letters to Hamlet, or Act 6. 1. Your mother said once that all the Hamlet men seem to walk beyond their deaths. I listened politely. We were bundling anemones for Elisabeth's bouquet. You, my lord, were elsewhere. 2. At first, hourless hours were spent imagining the pitch and yaw of the bird in your soul. You in court, you among bones. Do you still trace the steps of your beloved Horatio? My soul goes nowhere. I struggle in the mesh of cobwebs' roots. The stone at my head weighs me down forever. 3. My lord, to hold your head in my lap again, to feel your thoughts busy in my fingers. I. 4. Our women never step beyond their graves. No mother ever came to me in dreams. So each night I find myself more breathless, heartless. When the moon is a bright coin, I gaze into the ignited dark. Is that you, my lord, arguing yet with the fog? The empty house. The Anne Frank house is empty, which I didn't know until I stood there myself, reading placards in dark, quiet rooms, all of us shuffling in silence from one paragraph to the next, each sentence drawing us inexorably closer to the final tragedy. Another thing I didn't know, I was 6 weeks pregnant with my own daughter. Each step through those sad old rooms drew us inexorably closer to our own private tragedy. Anne's father marked her height as she somehow grew in that dank, dark place. There was so much hope in it, so much belief in the future that was hanging in the closet like an awkward, too big dress. A future which one must wait patiently to grow into. This one's called Head, Bottom, Baby. Here's the head, soft and grainy in the ultrasound. And here's the bottom, slumped away from the bright, bright head. The tech labels it all baby. And I listen to the hummingbird heartbeat, and I stare at the fish flick movements of my 9-week fetus, so busy on the projection screen, and on the photo just a shadow frozen in time. I couldn't bear to look at baby, clinging to the blood clot that I birthed one night, so I left the photo sleeping in its manila envelope on the wardrobe's top shelf. I still can't bear it. I still can't bear it. My little brother Jordan's favorite song was The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald by Gordon Lightfoot. And I'm having a hard time writing about Jordan, who died 8 weeks ago. But I was able to kind of cobble together a found poem using the lyrics from that song. So this is called Gitchi Gumi, which comes from the Ojibwe's name for Lake Superior. Gitchi Gumi, ever dead ember, empty as a bone, in the bigger night, the witch came to wait in the rough, good water, in the good night hours. Deep water rolls, sings, steams, dreams, takes in the iron of November. Gitchi Gumi, ever dead ember. For those who don't know, found poem, you kind of just take something and kind of erase whatever the person wrote and kind of find your own poem in it. So that's kind of what I did with the lyrics. The next poem is called Chesapeake. Sheets of fossils slip from the cliff with crinkling bone songs. The tidal movements dab like a painter here, thoughtful. We crunch across all this life, and our feet keep getting wet. We're lunging across this widening channel. Water slips inland, combing at the green river grasses. I can't hear you over the wind. You're picking up a disarray of objects, a shell or a fossil of a shell. You're weighing them in your hand. Okay, just a couple more. This one's called Another Memory. This one was in the League of Minnesota Poets Agates that came out last year. Yay. Woo. Okay. All right. I remember how the Buddha head set off alarms at the airport. How the woman slit open the box and lifted it gingerly out of the mess of Christmas wrappings. It was the size and shape of an infant's head, and how I pointed out the wick in the Buddha's dark, waxy hair, a candle from my boyfriend's sister. I remember how the sister hid the smell of weed wafting from her bedroom with incense, while I was considered trouble with my English degree and bad prospects. I remember how my prospects changed at the speed of erosion, the ocean licking at the shore and tasting changes. I remember crossing 2 shores of the Atlantic to meet him in London, and how in Edinburgh I wanted to see the castle on the hill and he said no. And I remember when I said no and he ignored it, and how that night I had to go to the pharmacy and ask for a certain pill that would clean him out of me. I remember cleaning the apartment after he left, and how the rooms went suddenly dark. The bill unpaid, just another miscommunication. So I graduated in May of 2020, which is a really bad time to graduate. So I was applying to lots of jobs and not getting any offers. So I was writing a lot of cover letters. So this poem was called, I was kind of going crazy. Cover letter _ Jaekel _ researcher 6 .docx. Thank you for this opportunity to apply for the Researcher 6 position at your esteemed Institute of Important Research, job ID number 337168. The bot that sends me an avalanche of job postings before I've had my morning coffee alerted me that you were on the hunt for a Researcher 6, and I was immediately interested. I see you hope to find a candidate who knows R, SAS, Julia, Python, SQL, SPSS, Tableau, Spanish, Cantonese, and medieval Lithuanian. Though I am familiar with only some of these languages, I can confirm that I am a fast and eager learner, always relishing the next challenge. I may not have the 7 years of work experience that you're requesting, but perhaps we can add together a few summers worth of work in the front desk of the university library and get close to home enough. I am available to work immediately. I can be contacted through phone, email, telegram, written, letter, pneumatic tube, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, or literally any means of communication you prefer. I look forward to supporting your mission of analyzing and interpreting important research data as your desperate panic attack research. Okay, last poem. This is supposed to be two sisters, one from the grave, one alive. It'll hopefully make sense. Okay, here we go. There's so much bone in the ash, I didn't expect it. I always thought the body was more like dandelion fluff, huffed easy off a stem. Sister, crying already? The Ziplock's fat with me. You're worrying the slider back and forth, balancing me on your knees as the boat cuts the water like a scratch on glass. Sister, don't be afraid. Dive your hands into me, I don't mind. Your hand is warmer than the June sunshine. Let's sigh together, a fistful of the dust of me, exploding in a silent, glittering cloud. A gorgeous ghost dancing down through the green lake water. Drown me in it, I don't mind. The water's fine. When the bag is empty, when the dance is over, you'll go. I'll stay. Can you believe it? Me, the tag-along. Me, the naughty one. I'll stay. I'll stay. Well, not quite. Tonight you will scrub and scrub, hunched like a witch over the kitchen sink, scrubbing the last shining bits of me from beneath your nails. Thank you.
One more time for Brittany. So we've been going for 9.5 years, but we put together an anthology of poems from poets that were on the show in the first 2 years. So that would have been February of 15 through January of 17. So there's a lot of good, great poets actually in here. And you should buy this because all the money goes to Crack Walnut, which like I said is the local chapter of the League of Minnesota Poets. So it's all nonprofit stuff. Okay. I'm not saying that because I'm in the book. All right. Moving on. Alice Paige, she, her, is a transgender author, educator, and activist from Chicago, Illinois. She has her MFA in creative writing from Hamline University, her BSc in biology from Iowa State University, and is a Loft Mentor Series Fellow. She writes about the healing power of community, the dangers of assimilation, and the ghosts of what we once were. Her work can be found in American Precariat, Take a Stand, Art Against Hate, A Raven Chronicles Anthology, Luna Station Quarterly, The Rumpus, and plenty of other strange journals. Please put your hands together for Alice Paige.
Howdy, y'all. I'm a professor, so I like to set expectations. I'm going to take you from low energy to high energy in about 5 poems, all right? We start low, go high. Come sit here at the end of the world with me. When perhaps the sun has finally quit its ceaseless, pounding fission, or a thimble full of black hole has slipped through reality, rending it like wax warming plate at your parents' first home, the one with the 2 steep carpet stairs and the neighbor who hated you riding your new bike near his car. He was afraid you would scratch the gleaming paint and picked a screaming match with your father. Guilt is one of the earliest feelings we can identify. You and your brother broke the warming plate playing frisbee in the house. You know you shouldn't have been, but it was too sweet a movement. The plastic disc gliding through the air, the outstretched hand, the index finger pointed, wax dripping down the dark table leg and onto the soft beige floor. All that aside, be with me in the cold end, when every atom loses their will to shake and shimmy. Bring tea. I don't like berry teas. It's a personal preference. I hope you understand. Perhaps a breakfast tea, dark and bitter to wake us up at the end. Or maybe a rich green that pulls the idea of peat to the tongue. A tea for friends. Hold my hand, please. I will be frightened. That's the nature of endings. They bring a finality to them that the beginnings avoid so mercilessly. Trace the tattoos on each knuckle that will have grown, faded, and wrinkled. I'll be proud of the age. It will have been hard won through years of pain, determination to be alive, to touch marigolds and tuck strands of hair behind ears. Tell me my palms are stained by salt and sweat. Maybe we'll think of the ocean at the end. Bring bread with honey. Something sweet but simple that speaks to beginnings, to things eaten for centuries. If there isn't bread and honey at the end, it will be a shame. We can watch great bursts of cosmic fire wipe the slate clean with a tawny buckwheat or black oak or honey. Fingers sticky. You'll tell that joke I love so much and crack a goofy smile. The word goofy is not poetic, but that's okay. Some things don't need to be. Don't run. Nothing necessitates that kind of worrying. It'll be the end and we'll all know it. Darkness will extend across the night sky like some great hand pulling away the final curtain on the old show we've all been so invested in. Ta-da! A magician's sort of finality. One with a flourish. I'll tell you, you mean so much to me. I know we take time for granted. I don't want to take any of this, anyone for granted. I want to live a life that does not cause harm. Have I hurt you? If so, I'm sorry. I'd have said it before the end, when there was more time. Maybe it will be time that turns against us, the clock no longer caring to tick, and will freeze in place. All of us captured in our imperfect humanness, apologies undelivered, letters sitting in drawers. I'd still want to. Sit here at the end of the world with me. Tell me a story of new beginnings, of fantastical places with castles and towers and good heroes and evil villains. Tell me we'd do it all over again if we could, sitting in the same room exposed to the light of it all, warming plate in pieces on the ground, car eventually scratched, hurt pounding on paper-thin heart. Thousands of years were played with a familiar but unknown melody that will too melt like wax. I think I would. I think I'd like to be imperfect again. All right, next one's a love poem. But I can never write simple love poems. I'm terrible at it. They've always got to be complex and have nuance and examine my humanness or some shit. So let's do that. Yeah. I've never been a love poet. Never had the sunny disposition, the metaphors ripe with giggling first kisses tucked into hammocks neatly falling. This poet caught too many stray friends in a tumble out of love into addiction, to scrape knees on sidewalks littered in cigarette butts, too many cancer-laden goodbyes. Final messages meaning too much in hindsight. Blood is the color of want, loss. Every poem I've ever written is to call the dead back, unwrite the violence, bridge the song. I can still hear you over and over at 33 and a third speed, broken across each verse. But last night, I learned my favorite poet is dying. Kissed someone who reminded me of all the things I love, like the way peels of an orange clump cradle one another, or the almost silence of winter woods, such a hush made of creeping beneath what is visible. Death must be creeping beneath what is visible. Memory. Rumi said, the wound is the place where the light enters you, and I've been searching, scratching at scabs, a lifetime for the light. Rumi's always been a liar to me. A wound is a wound is a wound. Call it any other name, and it still bleeds. It still bleeds. Last night, my heart pounded in beat, off tune as numbness broke into a flood, desire, grief, want, and back at this page I arrive, contradicting, quoting Rumi, finger pointed to the horizon, to the sun behind a gray curtain. It too has never been as poetic as it likes. All that light, and really, what is it doing but burning? Maybe that's what Rumi meant. I burn through every wound, poem, loss, passion, 1,000 times the same poem, different meter, to reach the unreachable, caught in sunlight, dust clouds. There are years I've tried to forget. I no longer try to forget. There are words I've been saving to write on the surface of the moon. I've never been a love poet, but I want to be. All right, time for some new shit. Thank you. Let's try that again, actually. Time for some new shit. Thank you. All right, I meant to wear different boots because I'm doing this poem tonight. So just imagine my ox blood docks down here. And YouTube, you also imagine it. It doesn't matter what shoes I'm wearing. You can't see. Dear dyke boots. Dear bitch leather. Dear scuff and heel drag, dear twisted tongue tucked beneath frayed laces, dear tattooed ankles cradle, hurried stare skipper, first thing off, last thing on, dear ragged want enabler, dirt clump collection plate, master of the quick step, dear security burden, matchstick butch mover, strike paper on a busy sidewalk, femme attention grabber, smooth as slick as ice, dear not winter boot, dear security blanket, look at me not teeth kicker, dear anti-anxiety mover, get me the fuck out of here, dear slow down, dear step and breathe, dear wanna be buried in you, dear ox blood pallbearers in waiting, thank you, P.S. your shoes untied. Oh, we ain't done yet. I also did not wear the vest. Dear dyke vest. Dear devilish dashing denim. Dear patchwork punk girl, hand-sewn heartache, grip tight in the night. Dear don't fucking talk to me in boldest typeface slapped across shoulder blades. Dear sweat-stained seductress, whiskey-soaked sinner. Dear always has pockets, hallelujah, jingled and blessed by red bit lighter, sobriety chip, wallet, and keys. Dear crowd surfing pit viper, dear devouring pit mother, master of the grab and get up, big bitch of the smile, dust up, dust off blood catcher, gum thread onlooker. Dear knuckled romance enabler, punch drunk poet of pavement love, dear love note receptacle, dear quivering hand holder, cold keeper outer, ish. Dear size too small or too big, zipper fucked, dryer stigmata, dear falling apart at the seams, but still here, thank you, P.S. nice patches. All right, This is a nice little companion piece for the book I'm working on called The Ghost Cabaret, that's set in 1930s Berlin and one of the first queer cabarets to ever exist. Hello, willkommen, bonsoir. Everyone take your places. We've all done this before. Radicals to the right and left. Moderates stay exactly where you have always been, the middle. No skin in the game, as always, eh, mon chéri? Now, let's get to it. Step, step. Oh, audience. I think you've been lost in the shuffle. Have you not been informed the world is a stage? That one's a classic. Don't worry, most of you have got your 3 garments of clothing. Socks and underwear don't count, of course. Remember, the places you put your feet and genitals only make you gay sometimes. The Arizona, Arkansas, Idaho, Tennessee, Florida, Nebraska, North Dakota, Missouri, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, and Minnesota police acting as ushers and security to this grand cabaret aren't looking at you. Most of you. Unless you're degenerate trans women, then they are, in which case, call me. All right, here, let's follow along. First act, a little magic trick. I pull legislation from a hat. Drag, cabaret, and other faggy performances are now an adult activity. Won't someone think of the children? Oh, and the children, by the way, have less access to medical care than ever before. Not determined by a doctor. No hormones for them. They might grow up to be transgender, an adult. A tragedy. Next poll, individuals can refuse service to anyone they deem goes against their religious beliefs. And the punchline in Florida, this does include first responders. How does she do it, you ask yourselves? Or how does he do it? I am one of those degenerates after all. No respect for me. These laws come out of nowhere. Up her sleeve? No, and I'm just getting started. There's around 300. I'm sorry, I haven't updated this poem. 500 more. Step, step, kick. Do you see how it goes now, this dance? The goal of which is not a loss of autonomy, but a loss of life. Step, step, kick. I don't know how to write a poem that gets you all to care. Step, step, kick. It's the Ghost Cabaret. Welcome. Sit down. Lose yourself in your comfortable normality, only broken by the performer on stage. At no point ask yourselves, what am I complicit in? Second act. For this one, I'm going to make solidarity disappear. What is there in the face of this machine anyway? Get elected? Ha! They throw us out of their legislative houses of ill repute anyway. No one is coming. Step, step, kick. Like clockwork, ladies and gentlemen, clockwork. It's a grand sort of show we've been warning you about for years, but no one is listening. A good play always involves an escapable fate. Which then brings us to the third act. Who wants to get sawed in half? Who wants to jump into the Shark Tank? Who wants to fall from an incredible height? I need volunteers, and if I don't get them, you'll be assigned a fate by our lovely ushers. I don't know what to do, how to get you to care, to move, to not be paralyzed by fear. I don't know if I'm speaking to the right audience or if this will even make a difference. Me, a sad clown in my sad cloud outfit, screaming fire in a crowded theater. The poetics of blood only seem to matter in hindsight anyway. Now, poems like this always have to have a turn, and this has all been tragedy. So I will end this on a joke for even the ghosts. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Keep it going for Alice Paige. All right, our final feature tonight is Claire Wahmanholm, who is the author of Wilder, Redmouth, and most recently Meltwater, which is available over there on the table. which was a finalist for the 2024 Kingsley Tufts Poetry Award. She was a 2020-2021 McKnight Writing Fellow, and her poem Glacier won the 2022 Montreal International Poetry Prize. Her work has most recently appeared in Sierra, the Hopkins Review, the Anarchist Review of Books, the Tri-Quarterly, Ninth Letter, and Blackbird, and has been featured by the Academy of American Poets. Also, the best part, she lives in the Twin Cities. Everybody, please put your hands together for Claire Wahmanholm.
Thank you for adjusting that ahead of time. Oh, but not enough though. There we go. Wow, you really can't see anything up here. It's really, the lights are really right there. Thank you for hosting, Tony. Can we do another yay? And for Luna, thank you for curating, getting all of us together. This is delightful. It's been 5 years since I read here. I tried to talk to Tony about that earlier. That was very cool. I looked at my records and I was like, oh yeah, I was here in 2019, so it's good to be back. I'm gonna read a couple of poems from Meltwater, which is over there, and then some new stuff. New shit. But I wanted to start with things that felt bad, man. Just things that felt bad lately. I've had a hard time writing and have had a hard time thinking about what are poems supposed to be doing right now. So it's nice to have the, anyway, I looked at some new stuff. I was like, oh, okay, these are some things I can get behind and I can read. So I'm grateful for this. But I wanted to start with Auden's poem, Musée des Beaux-Arts, which is one of my favorite poems. And I'm thinking about it, relevant in 1938. Relevant now, and it's I wake up and just the poem is running through my head. And I thought it might be in the book that Tony has here, but they have an Auden, but it's not that one. They have Funeral Blues, which is also good, but this one, which is he wrote it in 1938. He was visiting the Musée des Beaux-Arts in, I think, Brussels. I don't really know. And walking through, looking at the paintings and being oh yes, here is something we can say about art and suffering. So it's called Musée des Beaux-Arts. And you probably know it, but I want to read it anyway. About suffering, they were never wrong, the old masters. How well they understood its human position, how it takes place while someone else is eating, or opening a window, or just walking dully along. How, when the aged are reverently, passionately waiting for the miraculous birth, there always must be children who did not specially want it to happen, skating on a pond at the edge of the wood. They never forgot that even the dreadful martyrdom must run its course anyhow in a corner, some untidy spot where the dogs go on with their doggy life and the torturer's horse scratches its innocent behind on a tree. In Bruegel's Icarus, for instance, how everything turns away quite leisurely from the disaster. The plowman may have heard the splash, the forsaken cry, but for him it was not an important failure. The sun shone as it had to, on the white legs disappearing into the green water, and the expensive, delicate ship that must have seen something amazing, a boy falling out of the sky, had somewhere to get to, and sailed calmly on. So it's good, right? Auden, yay. And so I'm obsessed with this poem, and I've tried a lot of ways to sort of write kind of into it or around it, and it hasn't really worked, except I finally found a way to do it. I don't know if we have a name for this form, where you keep the last words of the source lines and then you write a new poem into it. What's that? Right? Anyone? Okay, well if you think
it's another found poem.
Right, it's a kind of found poem, and so it's anchored by anyway. So I have a poem and it's called About Suffering, and it's what are we doing in the West here? What's it like to live in America? But the last words of each line are the originals. From Auden's. If someone comes up with a cool, a catchy name for this forum, LMK. About suffering. Try entering the maze another way. It isn't wrong to want a different ending. All those women understood, all those school children, all those mink trying to get from one place to a gentler one, or just moving for the sake of it, just getting along. We don't want to think of horses and see a team of them waiting to pull a single body into four. We want the drill to be a drill. We want it to be like playing hide and seek or like skating for the breeze of it. I want to look at woods and not think of wood chips or money or dead birds. Forgotten, forget, forgot. I can't, haven't, never, all the disasters I have almost seen. Of course, there have been unhealable things, flinchings that mark each spot where I have been squeezed, tested like fruit, where the horse bucked and dragged my child self down the trail beneath tree after tree. I can remember everything, but choose to fold it away so I can sleep, so I don't terrify my children. Some may think that in a war, both sides suffer equally, that both sides cry out with equal misery, but it's not true. When the sun shone through the bullet holes in the walls of the maze, I saw no green through them. Others said it's just the nature of walls to be seen through in so many places. Its holes are not failures. Beneath this sky, there can be no failure. How else to sail calmly on? Thank you. I have some other new, like brand new ones I'm going to read, but first I'll read a couple from Meltwater. And I must have been like in a cranky, I'm often cranky, but like in a cranky mood when I chose this set list, so I apologize. And like, I promise, like in Meltwater, there are also like joyful, like lovely, life-affirming poems, and those are the ones that I picked earlier today. I'm like, so they're cranky poems. But if you want the other like lovely ones, I promise the book does have them. It's like stupid to even say it out loud because then it like diminishes the spell. I believe in magical things a little bit. And so in my poems, there's often, I'm like, oh, if I write the terrible, horrible thing that happened, like in the poems, like it stays in the poem. And like that's the only place it stays and it doesn't exist anywhere else. And now like I'm safe to like live my life. I know it doesn't work like that, but maybe it does. Anyway, but I have a poem because everyone's like, why are you writing about these dead children all the time? I'm like, well, it's apotropaic magic, so it doesn't actually happen. But now that I say it, fate is going to be like, I heard you, bitch, you thought. But so this one's called Poem That Cries Wolf. Like all the other poems, it is full of dead children. Terror gripped, they have been dropped by the nape on my stoop. I am relieved to carry them back inside the lines of my house. I, who have done the gripping, who have been the wolf. I, who am the boy, crying for witness against my own rabid imagination. My mind is a snarl of corners around which death is always waiting, a wilderness so burgeoning, so overrun, I cannot see for the lung-pink oleander sheltering every sharp thing. So the poem is an orchard or a house, something gridded into rooms or rows where only one version of every possible event in the universe grows. The death of a child happens safely here, beneath a dim, sunless light, or within these thinly papered walls. It is pulled down from the clouds of possibility as if through a lightning rod. The groundwater carries it cleanly away beneath the roots of the orchard. I rebuild this dummy house every night. I close the windows against the tangle of the actual world, where lightning can strike over and over without boredom or belief, and nothing is saved. To admit I play this game is to turn on all the lights and leave the door unlocked. Come in, I have declared myself a believer in magic, have dared to imagine my children are safe. Outside, the real moon casts oleander shadows on the wolves, whose blood is my blood, who have been waiting for the light to strike their eyes, for the door to open wide enough to finally be unclosable. It happens now. It has already happened. No one is coming. And I mentioned apotropaic magic at the end, like at the end of the blurb of my last poem. And apotropaic magic is like stuff you do. It's like the evil eye, or like kind of like little rituals you do to avert disaster. But there's a set of Greek gods, or a kind of a series, whatever, of Greek gods called the apotropaioi, and they are ancient Greek deities believed to avert disaster. You can like supplicate to them and pray to them, etc. And so this is called apotropaioi. I have decided that you look like me. In the smoke of calamity, I want to turn to myself, who is reasonable, who will sympathize, who knows that as I fall asleep, I picture my house on fire. I imagine how I would escape from every room. I imagine not escaping. I imagine my children not escaping. I can see the smoke, can close up my throat on command, can sweat so much my sheets would be the last thing to burn. You are powerless to turn away a fire or a cancer or a kidnapper or a knife, but I want you to have my face, so that when I say there are circumstances under which I would kill myself, you will understand. You will not stop me from running my hands over their cruel shapes to make sure they are still there, to make sure this too is a room I could escape. Same day. Don't like that. So again, I promise there are better, not these poems. These are, and also I went through and looked at I have made like little tallies of all the poems I've read from Meltwater, and I did choose ones that I hadn't read, because that's why. But I was like, you know what? No, let's read them. Let's do it. But maybe less, maybe not. That's okay. Last one. This one's called The New Fear. And I wrote this during like the Trump years, and I was like, this is the new, it's like, this is it. This doesn't get, but we'll make it through this and it'll be fine. So it's all coming around. It's all fucking coming around again. This is called, it's called The New Fear. The new fear, part 2, Redux. New fear. To say it was like air would be boring, and it was. There was nothing new about it except that it was new. It accumulated in our homes like souvenir shot glasses or promotional magnets. Nothing we noticed until we couldn't close our cabinets, couldn't find a clean surface to rest our anxiety on. It pooled in our urine and our sewers. It ballooned beneath the skin of rats. New holes gaped in the ozone layer. Above schools, churches, movie theaters, new mouths widened and widened until they ran out of air. But unless they expanded faster than all our other hole-shaped failures, the holes in the redwoods, the holes in the ice, the holes in the elephant's flanks, who cared? If our pupils were dilated, it was because it was always dark. If our hearts were beating faster, it was because we were always running. Our blood sugar was so high that our wounds had stopped healing. The fear was structural as muscle. Like apples grown inside plastic molds to resemble hearts or stars, babies were cut out of us, wearing fantastic shapes, grenades, mandrakes, a stretch of cactuses. They were born stork-bitten in every helpless place, scarlet and hurt-looking. We kept them in their rooms, blinds down in the half-light all their lives. They grew to the size of their cribs, no more. And in the light that wasn't really light, with our children who weren't really children, we saw that fear was the organ and the tissue and the cell, the membrane and the organelle. We saw no separation between the body and the bullet, no line between the lung and the water that fills it. The white letters of dread were invisible against their surface of snow. There were no words for what could scare us now. And I'll finish. I've been having such a hard time writing since October. I'm like, what is art, or what is art supposed to do when genocide is happening this relentlessly, and it hasn't stopped, and nothing has made it stop. And I was like, we're gonna hit an inflection, like someone's gonna wake up and stop this, and it hasn't stopped. And I'm like, what is the point of doing anything? Like, what is the point of poetry? What does it do? Or what is our expectation when we try to like write poems or read poems? Unclear, right? So this poem is called Prose Poem. It's a prose poem, but it's like a little chunk of text, and it's the most. Anyway, I'm trying to grapple with what art does right now. Prose poem. Are you ready for a metaphor? Are you ready for something clever? Does this shape signal a departure from your expectations? Does it suggest speculation, something dystopian? Today, I saw a video of a child's bones in the grass. The whole skull was there, with a hole in it. I could have said resting, I could have said nestled, and maybe they were, maybe someone did settle them just so. I don't know, I wasn't there. I was on my couch, I was in my bed, I was eating dinner, I was brushing my daughter's hair. Someone will wonder, is it a hoax? Someone will ask, is it a misrepresentation of the facts? There's a war going on, you can't trust everything you see. The poem is the shape of a small grave. The video is the shape of my screen, is the shape of this poem. Does it leap? Does it play? Does it illuminate the relationship between the speaker and the world? Does it alliterate? The camera was shaking, or the hand holding the camera shook, or maybe the whole body. Someone zoomed in so you could look. Thank you.
Keep it going for Claire. Okay, so here is what's happening. So we have approximately 40 minutes left. We're going to take a short break in a minute. But when I say short, I mean like 5 to 10 minutes at the most, because I want to try to get through as much as the open mic list as we can before we have to stop. Because we have to stop at 9. But before I do that, we are, as I said, a nonprofit. We are part of the League of Minnesota Poets. And so we live off of donations. So if you can donate, there's a couple different ways. If you have cash, you can throw it in here. Or you can donate in the big thing that says donate here. And either way is very helpful for programs that we do around town. And if you don't have any money to donate, that's okay. It's a free show. It will always be a free show. So again, come back 5-ish, 10-ish minutes, somewhere in there. And I'm going to pass this around. Thank you. Then, what I want to do second is ask for those who signed up for the open mic, who has never been up here doing open mic before that has signed up? Say your name. Anybody? No? No? Sheehan Buckles, who's that?
That's me. I did it once before last year.
Oh, well, how about you come up?
Yeah.
Yeah, clap everybody, come on.
All the way to the stage.
All the way to the stage.
Where's the step for the old people?
You gotta come up on that side so he helps you.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll go down that way.
all right. Is it still too top?
What? No, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right, so, I just got back from Israel last week, actually, and I went with a group of people from the Minneapolis Jewish Federation and some local synagogues. And I've been working on some poems about the trip. But one of my travel mates wrote a poem while we were there, and I told her, this would be a great poem to read at the open mic, but she couldn't be here tonight, so I asked if I could read it for her, and she said, yes, definitely. So this is her poem. It's her name's Amanda Linden. We ate watermelon. I went to Israel, and all I can think about is the watermelon. As we pulled the weeds near Gaza to clean the ground, Hamas turned red. We heard the artillery shells. We turned to one another, with slight fear in our eyes. The gardener tells us not to worry. But the gardener is stronger than all of us, having hid upon his safe house to keep his life. Then we ate watermelon. We prayed together the mourner's Kaddish. For festival goers, we will never be able to know. As we walked amongst the pictures of the taken, we heard the unbearable silence. We rode over scorched, combat-beaten streets, only to find the wreckage of cars that never returned home. Then we ate watermelon. We steadied our breath and tried not to cry while hearing the stories of heroes. The TikTok generation that put down their phones and showed their people that Masada will not occur again, that what they blow up, we build. Then we ate watermelon. I held the knife in my hand, not 500 meters from Gaza, as I steadied the watermelon for an initial cut. Again, I heard the artillery shells. Don't worry, said the soldier. You're with the IDF. Then we ate watermelon.
Okay. Next up, we'll bring up Luna Rey.
I felt like I should sacrifice something to the new shit gods.
New shit!
Because I brought everyone here. So this one's elegy for retirement. He wanted to retire. Simple. Sign that motherfucker up for Social Security, put him in an old age makeup, pension on his tongue, piggy bank fat, let him get bored. Become a store greeter, babysit his grandson, let him have grandchildren, let him have a few hobbies, a few more, write that novel he always talked about, old man muscles, gym talker, learn French, the words compound, invest, asset, cash flow, divest, portfolio, stratosphere, wealth, buy a summer home, seasonal change, let him vote Republican just once. He planned to be more conservative as he aged, join a Facebook group, let him yell at the sky, paint his fists the red, white, and blue. He had a whole plan, a notebook checklist, 10 easy steps for a happier retirement. You could say the boy did it. You could say he did retire. It just came a whole lot earlier than either of us ever thought it would.
Next up, we have Allie.
Thank you. I'm taking the mic out. I'm gonna do something new tonight. Yeah. I don't have my phone, it's dead, so we're gonna wing it. This poem is about gossip. And you know, people are gonna talk no matter what, so you might as well give them something to fucking talk about. I'm glad the kids are gone. There's a lot of swear words in this one. They say it was fireworks, then the show went to hell. I was blooming, then the pedals fell. I used to drive a van, drive a bike now. I used to fear man, I am the man now. Fixed mentality kills reality. Riding shotgun, bitch, I'm in the driver's seat. Open highway, bitch, I'm out here grilling meat. I open my way, bitch, I got plenty to eat. I keep slaying just to keep them praying. I keep cooking just to keep them fed. I keep them on the trucks, and as the saying goes, don't stick your hand in the cage of an animal full of rage, she bites.
You got this.
Thank you. I don't mean to be curt. I don't mean to be curt, but it takes a lot to hurt something. Damn it, everyone's like recording and shit. Okay. I'm all American, born and raised. Bones in my bones grow deep in this place. My father's fathers paved the way so I can speak freely on this stage. Fuck. So I can speak freely on this stage. I'm really fucking this up. I'm just gonna skip forward to the fucking good stuff, which is. It's really hard when you don't have the beat, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I think I'll probably just wrap it with, I'm gonna try next time, so. That's it.
Thank you. Coming up next is Mugu.
Hello. I'm still continuing my pursuit of ghazals, and this is a very young ghazal, just 4 days old. New shit. Oh, yeah. It's called Waves. I scrawl the moisture between our locked palms on the wet shore. I hope to comfort the weeping waves. No vessel can hold your void. Oceans stand small, hapless. What lingers is the pain of these pining waves. A possessed gale of growth ripped open your inner graves. Unleash the buried bohemian spirits. Waters you float on won't be still. Ripples you feel are tender tremors about to be whelming waves. You aren't a river of just unhealed tears, fighting to flow backwards to shut those open springs of hurt. You are the forward flow of life, dancing to rhapsodies of souls you've healed. Soak in your own healing waves. Your wings are weary to flap and fly. Their bones are brittle, still bickering with the rusted iron bars. To those caged for ages, freedom's a stranger. I discern your reluctance with these enticing waves. Your silence is the mother of all sounds, a deafening echo that fills the valleys between us. I seek sounds of life on these shores of solitude. I only hear your silence, not the roaring waves. Thank you.
Next up, we'll take Thora. Still here? You are, good.
Hey there. This is my second time reading. I do like weird little nature poems. Yeah, so this is one I've been working on. It's called Giant Squid. It took you centuries to find me. Tentacles curled around your maps. Your legends of my wrath made concrete, leaking across the page. All the stories of me pulling your small boats into the waves, ripping into anything crossing the sea. But I've always been here, far below, a gentle drifting with my brethren into the forgotten corners, far from sperm whales, your research vessels, each new threat descending from above. More research has been poured into finding me, dissecting me, ripping me open to pinpoint every last fact about my life, my habits, how I reproduce and die. Apparently, all of me must be extracted into data. I'm not alone down here. What makes you so obsessed? You ignore all that dwells with me, passing whole communities in search of your phantom monster. You try to find in me a kraken, a flowing terror, tentacled leviathan, a monster that's been lurking in abyssal parts of your mind for years. But I don't know you. I've seen reptiles, mammals, fish returning to the water to steal my prey, even devour me. They'll disappear one day. They always do. Anything with a skeleton can't seem to adapt down here. The seas are getting rougher, the water's warmer, different than before. Chemicals and trash now fall amidst the dead. I have to descend further below just to find what I'm used to, but this too will pass one day. You gawk at my size, tentacles over twice your measly length, a beak that rips through steel, my skin changing with the waters, a monstrous shadow lurking in the corners of your world. But I'm unconcerned by all this. My eyes don't blink. I've seen it all for a long time. The dead will continue to rain down. Surface dwellers will die to hunt us, die out, and return. And we will flow with the waves, red arrows in a dark sea. Thank you.
Next up, we have Jordan.
It's all new shit.
New shit!
Firewatch. Again. Walking these quiet, empty halls. Well, mostly quiet. I can't tell where that music's coming from, but I can hear it on every floor. Something smells funny, and I'm sure I don't want to know what it is. But I've been up all night thinking of you, looking for any sign in these not so quiet halls. But there's no smoke, no home-destroying flames, no arguments except for 3B. And I'm content to say, I'm glad I didn't see you.
Next up, we got Barry.
Boy, it really is blinding up here.
Oh,
good.
We fixed it.
Thank you. You'd be so very adorable if only you would focus your eyes on me. You'd be worthy of a poetic riff. If you gift me a hint, only a whiff, of the barest sparkle of repartee, you'd be so very adorable if only you are a little less stiff. How aloof and coy do you need to be? You'd be worthy of a poetic riff. I would be so responsive in a jiff. If you weren't so much of an absentee, you'd be so very adorable. If you gave me access, it would make a diff. My heart is the pith of a jubilee. You'd be worthy of a poetic riff. I'd welcome a quibble, even a tiff. I am the mojo of a jamboree. You'd be so very adorable if you'd be worthy of a poetic riff. I'd be so very adorable if you'd be a wee bit curious of me. I am a bouncy poet on a riff. Grace me epiphany, you would see. I'd be the crest of a wave, only if you were a smidgen courteous to me. I am magnanimous amid a miff. My company could be an apogee. Ethereal syllables are a whiff of my bold adoration on a spree. If you were attentive, you'd sniff a whiff of the buoyant bombast buried in me. We could flap doodle in a lover's tiff. Then we could canoodle, but only if.
Next we have Rye Edwards.
Thank you. I'm grateful that the last time I came up here read for my first time and felt very welcome, so I'm back.
Second time.
Yeah. I wrote a song once called New World. Has a line that says, sometimes the world is so small it's hard to see out of. And this is kind of a second part to that I wrote today. It's called Opening Night. The night opened a portal through your lips, and your quiet uncertainties and your quandaries wondering aloud, is this okay? Okay. You ripped me from my reveries. You fetched me out of my fantasies. You saved me from my long suffering. You say now you don't remember locking the door, but woman, you laughed and looked as guilty as a cartoon cat who just destroyed a house in the name of capturing a mouse. Very American. I can just imagine a team of astronauts rescuing an alien from Uranus who doesn't have the context to see why his planet's name is a joke. Who imagined he was happy? Who imagined he had to be happy with existence, even though it was nothing like anything he dared to dream it could be. Then the night opened through the portal of your invitation. I began to feel welcome. I began to stop feeling like a mistake, to stop convincing myself to be happy, to stop feeling like I was born on the wrong planet. Through your embrace, I released. I gave up the facade I'd been gripping to death for some semblance of life. I let you take me as though you were a rocket with endless fuel. The universe opened, showed me the splendor of her beauty, all at once revealing the oneness that necessitates her name, universe, and that I was part of her, that I was always destined to be part of her. And under the immenseness of wonder, of awe, of beauty and reverence, I found I belong, and I was free.
Charlie, come on up.
Mary made it without knocking everything down. I've been doing some poems that require research. I'm not sure this is a good idea, but anyway. It's called Burial. Minnesota history prefers tidy stories to the ragged narrative of messy events. Take Fountain Cave, for example, or more precisely, the lone descriptive plaque on the bluffs along Shepherd Road in St. Paul. Pig's Eye Passant, St. Paul's accidental founder, set up his whiskey business on the Mississippi riverbank below the plaque. His source of water, the springs that fed Fountain Cave. His storehouse, the cave itself, 1,000 feet behind his saloon at the end of a narrow ravine. The saloon was the center of a growing village. It might have been recognized as St. Paul's official founding site, but the army evicted him. Selling bootleg whiskey to soldiers was considered unseemly. Besides, a short distance upriver, the little St. Paul Chapel was constructed by Father Lucien Galtier. St. Paul was a more respectable name than Pig's Eye's Saloon. And Father Lucien Galtier, whose eyes were just fine, made a much more acceptable founder. The cave fared no better. For a while, it was a tourist attraction, complete with an ice cream pavilion. The ice-cold waters and accessible caverns were a cooling way to spend a hot summer day. But the marshes above the cave were drained to make room for real estate, and the railroad built a maintenance yard on top of the cave and decided to use its sandstone tunnels as a sewer. The ravine, narrow and deep, was more useful as a trash dump than a path to the cave. When Shepherd Road was carved along the bluffs in the 1960s, both cave and ravine were a nuisance, easily fixed by filling the ravine, completely entombing the cave. Other than the plaque, there is no indication of where the ravine was, nor that the cave lies whole underneath the row of grain elevators across the road. If you stand near the plaque, you can see the dome of the St. Paul Cathedral, a significant upgrade from the Little Riverside Chapel. The cathedral was financed by railroad baron James J. Hill. It looks serenely on pretty Shepherd Road, a sanitized landscape over St. Paul's founding. No inkling of the history that is immediately underfoot.
And we're gonna close out the show tonight by letting Alice come up and do one more poem.
Howdy. Didn't mean to be back up here, but we need a reminder that the role of the artist is to always speak truth to power and never on behalf of power. This is called Dog Face. Darkness shuffles into the world as a pit. Men with missing faces make cathedrals of craters. People, real people, turned in an instant to the nothingness they never wished to be. Teeth must be scattered as always do when the bodies begin to fall, like buildings with stairwells left behind in their wake. Pillars of bone or mortar. Pillars of what once was a thing which could be but never will be again, called life. There are no observers in this, only participants. Which face do you put on to make it through to a new day? Please let it be one, oh please, one that makes a difference. Please let it be more than empty. No, they were not missing faces. They wore snouts of apathy, snouts rife with teeth that rattle like sabers, snouts which rifle and tear and ricochet and slaughter, dog men with dog faces in the absence, staring back. Do you see them, eyes sharp, scornful beneath ears parked like the nose of a plane pointed at the sky, meaning the fastest way to after comes from the firmament. What is your home producing, Minnesota? Pain, probably. God missiles, meaning the fastest way to after comes from the firmament. Here is the magic trick the men without faces, the men with snouts for faces, wouldn't want you to be aware of. Never ask yourselves, what am I complicit in? 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 Oh God, no. What am I complicit in? Thank you.
Okay, so this has been, actually before I do the closing, when I'm done, please take your candles, if you have one at your table, not the candle holder, and put it on the bar, as well as the little tent and the business cards if you do not want to take one with you. Also, any of your glasses can go in the busing trays, but before we do that, I just want to thank those who came out tonight for Poets and Pints number 111. We have this glorious audience, but we also had Elisabeth Workman who had to leave because she brought her children. Understandable. And then we had Jen Manthey. Of course, Alice Paige. Brittany Jaekel. Wahmanholm. And the person who brought it all together, Luna Rey Hall. My name is Tony Plocido. We're here every third Wednesday. Next month, we have a great show for you. I don't know who the poets are going to be because I didn't curate it, but I know that Milkweed Press is putting it all together. So don't miss out on that. I think it's on the 18th of August. So thank you for coming out tonight, and we will see you next month.